Jack lived in a world where humanity had finally reached the stars, but none of that progress had trickled down to him. While the wealthy zipped around in personal starships and lounged in orbiting palaces, he could barely afford a cramped apartment in the decaying sector of New Boston, Earth's largest spaceport city. His mornings always began the same, artificial sunlight streaming through the cracks of his worn window, the distant thunder of ships launching into the sky. Rent was due in 3 days, and he had exactly 18 credits to his name, not enough for a proper meal, let alone the 500 credits his landlord demanded. On his walk to work at the spaceport's cleaning service, Jack tilted his head back to watch sleek ships cut across the skyline. His company had the contract to clean private vessels, which meant he spent his days scrubbing away the smudges of people who had more wealth than he could dream of in 10 lifetimes. That morning, while working on the polished hull of a massive private yacht, something unusual caught his eye. Through one of the windows, he saw a tall, blue-skinned alien sitting in a lavish lounge, crying. Silver tears slid down the alien's cheeks. Jack knew he shouldn't care. It wasn't his business, and for all he knew, alien tears might not mean the same thing as human ones. Still, the sight struck him. Someone who seemed to have everything looked just as miserable as he felt. He was about to move on when the alien looked up. Their eyes, 4 of them, widened, and suddenly Jack's cleaning platform jolted to life, gliding toward one of the ship's airlocks as if pulled by invisible hands. His heart pounded as the platform locked into place. The airlock cycled open, and a melodic voice echoed directly inside his head. "Please, come inside. I have a business proposition that could solve both our problems." Jack hesitated. Entering a private vessel without authorization could cost him his job. But then again, what did he really have to lose? With trembling hands, he stepped inside, into what would become the strangest contract of his life. The alien introduced themselves simply as Blue. Despite their wealth, Blue confessed to a problem money couldn't fix: crushing loneliness. Their species was naturally telepathic and empathic, dependent on constant emotional connection to stay healthy. But Blue had been exiled for supporting the wrong political faction, severed from the collective mind of their people. "I have studied humans," Blue's voice resonated in Jack's thoughts. "Your kind has remarkable resilience and adaptability. You form bonds quickly, even across vast differences." Blue laid out the proposal. They would pay off all Jack's debts and provide him with a comfortable life. In return, Jack would live aboard the ship as their companion. Someone to talk with, to share meals with, to teach them about human culture and emotions. Sounded too good to be true. Probably was. But when Jack met the hopeful gaze of all 4 of Blue's eyes, he realized it might be the only real chance he'd ever get. "I have one condition," Jack said, surprising himself with his own boldness. "I want to learn about space travel, about other species, about everything. If I'm going to be your companion, I want to grow too." Blue's silver tears dried. Their mouth curved into what Jack hoped was a smile. "That is acceptable. More than acceptable, it is admirable. Let us formalize our arrangement." The contract was signed with both ink and a single drop of Blue's silver tears, binding under both human and alien law. With a few taps on Blue's datapad, Jack's debts vanished. As the numbers disappeared from existence, he couldn't shake the thought: had he just made the best decision of his life, or the worst? Only time would tell. The first week aboard Blue's ship, the Star Whisper, was nothing like Jack expected. His shoebox apartment was replaced with a private suite larger than an entire floor back home. The bed molded to his exact comfort preferences. The food synthesizer could conjure up any Earth dish he craved. Luxury wasn't the hard part. Living with an alien was. Blue's telepathy meant they could sense Jack's emotions constantly, which led to more than a few awkward moments. On the 3rd night, when homesickness overwhelmed him, Jack opened his door to find Blue standing there, holding a perfect recreation of his mother's chicken soup, plucked straight from his memory. "Privacy," Jack said firmly the next morning. "Humans need emotional privacy sometimes. It's like closing a door around your feelings." Blue's skin darkened, a sign of embarrassment Jack was beginning to recognize. "My species considers emotional privacy a form of punishment, of isolation," Blue admitted. "But I will learn to respect your needs." Together, they built a system. Blue would maintain just enough of a connection to stay healthy, while Jack marked the times when he needed to be left alone. Slowly, awkwardly, a broke human and a lonely exile began shaping a life together. One that neither had expected but both desperately needed. Blue had learned to maintain a telepathic distance unless Jack specifically invited the connection. It was like learning to knock before entering a room, except the room was someone's mind. The education Jack had asked for began almost immediately. Blue proved to be an eager teacher, starting with the basics of spacecraft operations. To both of their surprise, Jack had a natural talent for spatial navigation, though the complex mathematics behind space travel still made his head spin. "Your species is remarkably adaptable," Blue observed one day, watching Jack practice with the ship's holographic control system. "Most beings require months to grasp these concepts." But it wasn't all smooth sailing. During their very first meal together, Jack managed to violate 3 alien cultural taboos in less than 10 minutes, eating with his left hand, speaking during a certain engine power phase, and worst of all, complimenting the food before Blue had taken the first bite. "How do you keep track of all these rules?" Jack groaned later, after another mishap involving the wrong color of clothing during shipboard evening hours. "How do you keep track of when to say please and thank you?" Blue countered. "Cultural rules become invisible once you grow up with them." The real challenge came when the Star Whisperer received a subspace transmission from another ship requesting docking rights for trade negotiations. This would be Jack's first encounter with aliens other than Blue, and nerves twisted in his gut. "They cannot know the true nature of our arrangement," Blue warned privately. "To many species, a companionship contract would seem inappropriate. You will be introduced as my cultural advisor." Jack nodded, straightening the formal attire Blue had provided. "What species are they? Anything I should know ahead of time?" "They are merchants of the Golden Path," Blue replied. "They care only for profit and trade. Be careful, they can smell desperation and weakness like sharks scenting blood in water." As the visiting ship docked, Jack's heart raced. Only weeks ago, he had been scrubbing hulls for minimum wage. Now he was about to sit in on high-stakes alien trade talks. But then he noticed Blue trembling slightly, their skin rippling with subtle patterns of anxiety. In that moment, Jack realized something important. Blue didn't just need a companion to soothe their loneliness, they needed someone to stand beside them in situations where their wealth and status weren't enough. For the first time, Jack felt truly valuable. He reached out and touched Blue's arm, a gesture they had agreed was acceptable. "We've got this," he said firmly. Blue's skin shifted to a warm golden hue of gratitude and trust. As the airlock cycled open, Jack stood tall at their side, ready for whatever came next. He was no longer just a broke human gambling on a desperate deal. He was becoming something more. The merchants of the Golden Path were nothing like Jack had imagined. They drifted into the Star Whisperer's meeting room as clouds of golden dust, swirling and coalescing into vaguely humanoid shapes. Their voices came as whispers that seemed to echo from every direction at once. "We bring greetings, and opportunities for profit," they intoned in flawless English, though Jack could see no mouths moving. "We are intrigued by your unusual crew arrangement." Blue's skin flickered with faint concern, but their voice remained steady. "My cultural advisor ensures our trades respect local customs across human space. Now, shall we discuss business?" The lead merchant condensed into a more solid form, its golden particles swirling with interest. "Indeed. We bring rare materials from the edge worlds, precious metals, exotic matter, and information." At that word, Blue's posture stiffened. Jack noticed their lower eyes twitching, a tell he'd learned meant deep unease. The merchants noticed too. "Perhaps," the lead merchant whispered, "information regarding certain political developments in your home cluster." Blue's skin paled with distress. Without thinking, Jack stepped forward. "I believe standard trading protocols require all parties to declare their goods before making specific offers," he said firmly. He had memorized that rule only days ago during one of Blue's lessons. The merchants swirled in surprise. "The human speaks with authority," they whispered among themselves. "Unusual. Most interesting." "My cultural advisor is correct," Blue said quickly, their color returning. "Declare your complete inventory or this meeting ends now." The lead merchant's form shimmered with something like amusement. "Very well. We offer industrial-grade platinum from the mines of Nexus 6, quantum-stabilized exotic matter for drive core enhancement, and correspondence intercepted from the Central Cluster's diplomatic channels." Jack seized the moment. Interesting selection. However, Earth's trading protocols state that any diplomatic correspondence must be verified by an independent human authority before negotiations can proceed. "I'm sure you're aware of the regulation." He was bluffing, he had no idea if such a regulation even existed. But he spoke with the kind of confidence Blue had been drilling into him for weeks. The Golden Path merchants stirred uneasily, their golden particles swirling in agitation. "Such verification would be inconvenient. Then perhaps we should focus on the platinum and exotic matter," Jack suggested smoothly. Unless you'd prefer to end our meeting here. The lead merchant's form contracted slightly. The human's point is valid. Let us discuss the tangible goods. Over the next hour, Jack sat in awe as Blue guided the negotiations, their voice calm and precise. They traded a cache of rare minerals from the Star Whisper's hold for the platinum that Blue later explained would be worth 5 times as much on other markets. When the merchants finally departed, Blue turned to Jack. Their skin glowed with a mix of relief and gratitude. That was impressive. How did you know to invoke human trading protocols? I didn't, Jack admitted. I made it up. I just figured they wouldn't want to risk breaking rules they didn't know about. Blue's skin rippled with a pattern Jack had never seen before. Later, he'd learn it was the alien equivalent of laughter. You outbluffed the Golden Path. Do you realize how rare that is? I just didn't want them using my presence as an excuse to pressure you, Jack said. Then, with a sheepish grin, though I probably should learn the actual rules before next time. Next time, Blue repeated thoughtfully. Their eyes glimmered. Yes, I believe there will be many next times. You have a natural talent for this, Jack. Perhaps our arrangement can be more than companionship. Would you be interested in becoming my official trade negotiator? Jack grinned. From scrubbing ships to striking deals aboard them, life had certainly taken an unexpected turn. I'd like that. But first, you'll need to teach me everything you know about galactic trade. I can't bluff my way through every deal. Agreed, Blue said, their skin glowing warmly. Though I must admit, watching you bluff was highly entertaining. Together, they headed to the ship's library. For the first time in his life, Jack wasn't just surviving. He was thriving. 3 months later, Jack had learned more about galactic commerce than he'd ever thought possible. Blue proved to be a patient and brilliant teacher, and Jack's quick wit secured them several profitable agreements. Yet success brought complications. One quiet evening over dinner, Blue's skin suddenly flushed to an ashen gray, a color Jack had never seen before. They collapsed forward, catching themselves on the table's edge. Blue. Jack rushed to their side. What's wrong? A psychic echo, from home, Blue transmitted weakly. The collective, they're in pain. Great pain. Jack helped them into a chair, his mind racing. For months, Blue had avoided speaking about their home cluster or the exile that had driven them away. But now, watching them tremble, Jack realized how much that silence had cost. Tell me, he urged gently. Tell me everything. Blue's skin rippled with patterns of old grief as they finally shared the truth. Their home cluster had been torn apart by a bitter political struggle. The traditionalists wanted to preserve isolation, clinging to their closed society. The progressives, Blue among them, argued for trade with outsiders, warning that their emotional dependency left them dangerously vulnerable. The traditionalists won, Blue transmitted. They called us traitors, claimed we would destroy our way of life. Exile was more than physical, they severed our psychic bonds to the collective. It was like having your soul torn in half. But you still feel them? Jack asked softly. Only echoes, Blue admitted. And only in moments of great distress. What I felt tonight was fear, desperation. Jack's mind flashed back to the merchant's earlier offer of political information. Could the traditionalists be failing? Almost certainly, Blue said when Jack voiced the thought. Our people need resources they cannot produce alone. Without trade, their voice trailed off. The ship's comm system chimed suddenly. An encrypted signal flickered onto the console, on a frequency Jack had never seen before. Blue's skin shifted to a deep, shocked purple. That's a resistance channel. From home. They opened the message together. It was brief, but its meaning was clear. The traditionalist government was collapsing. Trade restrictions had caused critical shortages. The resistance, former progressives who had escaped exile, was gaining momentum. They needed Blue's help to negotiate emergency trade agreements before the entire cluster fell into chaos. They want me to return, Blue whispered, their skin swirling with colors of conflict. To save the very people who cast me out. Jack studied his friend, seeing the weight of the decision pressing down on them. He thought of everything he had learned about trade, about diplomacy, about bridging cultures. You know, he said carefully, they're not just asking for you anymore. They're asking for us. Blue stilled. What do you mean? You understand their needs, their culture. I understand how to negotiate with outsiders, how to find common ground. Together, we might be able to help your people open themselves to trade without losing who they are. Exile Blue, you and your human will present these agreements to the full council at first light. If your proposals hold merit, we will consider temporary suspension of the trade restrictions. But know this, failure will mean not only your exile renewed but the collapse of what remains of our unity. Blue inclined their head, skin shimmering with disciplined restraint. We accept these terms. As they left the chamber, Jack finally allowed himself to breathe. The psychic storm of the council's emotions had been exhausting, yet he felt oddly steady. Blue touched his arm gently, their glow a soft golden hue of reassurance. You handled yourself with grace. I have never seen the council silenced so swiftly by an outsider. I just showed them what was real, Jack replied, voice low. You're not just my partner, you're my friend. I couldn't let them think I was only here for profit. Blue's colors deepened with something Jack had come to recognize as pride. That sincerity may be the key to saving us. That night, in the quiet of their assigned quarters, Blue explained what lay ahead. The council session would be broadcast across the cluster, every connected mind watching and feeling. The wrong word, the wrong tone of thought could spark fear or rebellion. Jack stared at the ceiling, the low hum of the station echoing around him. So no pressure, he muttered, earning a ripple of laughter from Blue. But as sleep came, Jack dreamed not of failure but of possibility, of millions of beings connected by something more than fear, of trade routes carrying not just goods but ideas, of Blue finally standing before their people not as an exile, but as a bridge to the future. When morning arrived, Jack and Blue stepped into the council chamber once more. The air shimmered with psychic energy, a tide of collective expectation pressing against them. Jack tightened his grip on the datapad. Let's show them, he whispered. Blue's skin flared with gold and silver. Yes. Let's show them that exile can become salvation. And together, side by side, they stepped into history. These trade proposals may sustain us, the head counselor transmitted gravely, but know this, if they threaten our way of life in any way, the consequences will be severe. As they left the chamber, Blue's skin glowed with quiet pride. You did well, they sent privately to Jack. But this is only the beginning. The real challenge starts now. Jack nodded, already planning. They had opened the door. Now they had to prove that change didn't mean destruction, that cultures could grow stronger together. The next week tested both of them to their limits. Each day brought endless meetings with council members, trade envoys, and station administrators. Jack's head throbbed constantly from maintaining his mental shields in the psychic storm, but he refused to show weakness. The breakthrough came during the first live demonstration of trade. A merchant vessel from the Crystalline Collective arrived, carrying desperately needed power cells. Jack had chosen them deliberately. Their crystalline physiology made them naturally resistant to psychic interference. The station's people watched in fascination as the crystalline crew unloaded their cargo with flawless efficiency. More importantly, they followed every protocol Jack and Blue had created, maintaining proper emotional distance, using specialized communication systems designed for psychic sensitivity. You see, Blue told the council, their colors steady and confident, we can adapt trade to our needs, rather than forcing ourselves to adapt to trade. The head counselor's skin rippled with reluctant admiration. Perhaps. But this is one ship, one species. How can we be certain others will be so accommodating? Jack stepped forward despite his exhaustion. Because we've already done the hard part. Every species I contacted knows this is a test run. They're waiting, watching. If they see this succeed, they'll follow any reasonable protocol to access your markets. He pulled up a holographic display showing energy reserves climbing. Your reserves are already up 15% from one shipment. Imagine what regular trade could do. Ripples of hope swept through the chamber. But one counselor's skin darkened with unease. And what if our unity falters? Already I sense the young dreaming of stars, of alien ways. Change does not mean loss, Blue countered firmly. Look at Jack and me. We've grown stronger by learning from each other. He understands our ways better than many who share this galaxy, and I've learned that reaching outward does not mean losing what lies within. Jack felt the shift immediately, the collective consciousness stirring, brightening like stale air given a fresh breeze. The younger minds radiated excitement, their dreams no longer seen as threats but as possibilities. The head counselor rose, their skin displaying patterns Jack had never seen, weighty, decisive. We have deliberated. Exile Blue, your exile is hereby ended. You and your human partner will oversee our transition to open trade under strict protocols to protect our cultural integrity. The chamber erupted into a storm of swirling colors and emotion. Jack nearly staggered as his mental shields faltered under the tide of joy and relief. Blue caught him, their skin glowing brighter than he had ever seen. There is one more matter, the head counselor added. Jack of Earth, You have proven that humans can understand our ways. Would you accept a permanent position as our chief trade negotiator? You would be granted citizenship rights, including limited access to the collective consciousness. Jack turned to Blue, whose skin shimmered with hope and uncertainty. I accept, he said without hesitation, on one condition: Blue remains my partner in every negotiation. We work best as a team. The head counselor's skin rippled with rare amusement. That was never in doubt. Your partnership is why we believe this will succeed. Later, standing at the observation deck as more trading ships arrived, Jack reflected on how far he'd come, from scrubbing decks to helping save a civilization, all because he'd taken a chance on an unexpected deal. Second thoughts? Blue asked, joining him at the window, their mind brushing gently against his. Not one, Jack replied, smiling. Though, this isn't what I expected when I stepped through your airlock that first day. Blue's skin shimmered with a pattern Jack now knew as affection and contentment. The best deals, they transmitted, are the ones that exceed all expectations. Together they watched as ships docked, each one bringing new opportunities, new connections, new hope. The broke human and the lonely exile had found not just prosperity, but a purpose larger than themselves. And Jack knew with absolute certainty that sometimes the most unlikely partnerships didn't just change lives. They changed the universe. The end.